Hello friends, Tom Downey here for the Detroit Lions preseason profile, and we'll start things off with their additions this offseason. It wasn't exactly a big splashy offseason for Detroit, but there were some notable moves. They brought in LeGarrette Blount. He could be their new featured back. Christian Jones, Devin Kennard come over as some potential linebackers or defensive ends, depending on how the Detroit wants to deploy Kennard. Luke Willson might be your new tight end. And then the draft, two notable picks early on. Frank Ragnow to be a center or a guard, probably a guard early on for Detroit. And also Kerryon Johnson, who we'll get to here in just a little bit. As for the losses, Haloti Ngata, he leaves for Philadelphia. Eric Ebron was let go. Detroit, I think, wants to run the ball more. Less of a need for a pass catcher tight end in Eric Ebron. And Tahir Whitehead goes to the Oakland Raiders. A bit of a notable loss at linebacker after Whitehead finally had a bit of a breakout year for Detroit. All in all, I give the offseason just a C+. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't exactly a big home run success for Detroit. This team did not get any worse, but I don't know how much better they truly got based on their offseason moves. In the end, for Detroit, it's about average, and I give that a C+. Not exactly an insult, but not exactly heaping praise upon them either. As for their preseason schedule, they go play the Raiders in Week 1, home against the Giants in Week 2, on the road to Tampa Bay in Week 3, and then they play the lowly Browns in Week 4 in the meaningless preseason game. We'll zoom in, though, on the Week 3 matchup, the dress rehearsal. A couple questions I have for Detroit that I want to see early on. Can the offense actually run the ball, knowing full well we've been fooled in the past by Detroit having a great halfback in the preseason, i.e. Ameer Abdullah, a.k.a. Barry Sanders 2.0. As for the defense, is there a consistent pass rush? We've seen the flashes from guys like Ngata, who is now on the PUP list to start the year, but can there actually be consistency on that end? Some training camp storylines for Detroit. First up, can the Lions run the ball, i.e., will the offensive line allow them to? And this offensive line, talent-wise, I actually really like it. I'm still kind of confused as to how Detroit hasn't had more success on the ground. This is a fine offensive line. It's not a top 5 unit, I don't think, but it's not below average. It's at least above average. This is a good unit. Frank Ragnow should start at left guard. Graham Glasgow is at center. TJ Lang, Ricky Wagner, Taylor Decker. Maybe not the best depth, but starting 5-wise, it's a strong Detroit offensive line that you would think will have success running the football this year. Of course, it's a two-way street. It goes both ways here for Detroit. You got to have someone who can actually run the football behind what should be a solid offensive line. And the running back battle is an intriguing one to me, not just as to who starts, but who maybe doesn't make the roster. So LeGarrette Blount, as of right now, I think is your starting back. Now, Theo Riddick, we know, is a good player. He is going to be your third down scat back, change of pace type. The guy I'm really excited to see, though, in the preseason is Kerryon Johnson. I liked him a lot coming out of Auburn. Medical was the reason he was a second-round grade for me, but talent-wise, he can be at least an average starting NFL halfback, if not more than that. He was the focal point of the Auburn offense. I'm excited to see what Johnson does this year. And on that related note there, what happens to Ameer Abdullah? He is clearly no longer the Lions' featured back long-term, which sucks. I really liked him coming out of Nebraska. But his future is a big question mark. Could he be traded? Will he be relegated to the number 4 halfback for Detroit? Either way, that starting halfback job is a fun one to watch. In reality, I'm sorry, fantasy fans, will probably be a committee, but I think by the end of the year, do not be surprised if Kerryon Johnson is the starting back for Detroit. He could be a key cog in an offense that clearly wants to run the ball this more. That was kind of the overarching theme I saw in their offseason moves this year. As for defense overall, look, it's a fine unit. It's not bad by any means, but I need to see steadier pressure from Detroit. They had Ngata, who had 12 sacks last year. 6 of those sacks came in the last 2 games, and 3 of them came early on in the year. That's way too high of a percentage for the Lions. Anthony Zettel had 6.5. Then it's Akeem Spence, Cornelius Washington, and a bunch of guys tied with 2. Detroit needs a steadier pass rush. Maybe it's the Shanahan who he can come in. Try that in. I don't think he's going to. Overall, the pass rush is the big concern I have for Detroit, and it could be a concern that they focus on next offseason with more money freed up from Ngata if he does indeed leave, or earlier on in the NFL draft. As their 2018 schedule, up and down throughout. Jets, that should be a good one on Monday night in terms of potentially winning a game. I don't know about an actually good football game unless Sam Darnold actually starts. The Niners in Week 2, that'll be a tough one on the road, followed up by a home game against New England, Sunday Night Football, Patricia versus Belichick. The Cowboys are a road game in Week 4, the Packers in Week 5. Week 2 to Week 5, that's a pretty demanding stretch for Detroit. I wouldn't be stunned if they didn't win a game in that and started the year 1-4. That's not a knock on Detroit's talent overall, but they do play in a very tough NFC. Dolphins in Week 7, I like that one. Seattle is a winnable game. On the road against Minnesota, that'll be a tough one in Week 9. Second half of the year now, on the road against the Bears. Panthers and then back again against the Bears on Thanksgiving. You'd figure at least one win there. Carolina, we'll see how they fare with new OC Norv Turner. Home against the Rams, then it's a slate of road games at Arizona, at Buffalo, and then they end the year with what could be a potential good swing for them. If they can beat Arizona, if they can beat Buffalo, which I think they are going to be able to, they end the year Week 16 against Minnesota, Week 17 at Green Bay. If Detroit is sitting there with 7 or 8 wins at that point, they could control their own destiny, maybe not to win the NFC North, but to get into the playoffs. And frankly, that's where I think Detroit will be. They'll be hanging around the 500 mark for much of the year if they get by a tough early slate of games. And they're going to be about an 8-win, a 9-win team like they have been for several years now. And in the end, I think that's going to be good enough for third in the NFC North. Now, will they finish second this year? It's a possibility. But if Aaron Rodgers is healthy and the Vikings are the Vikings again, I don't see Detroit getting second in the NFC again this year. Their odds to win Super Bowl 53 are actually rather low, plus 5,500, very, very low odds. But I don't think Detroit will make a Super Bowl run. I do think, even in a very tough NFC, they will be a borderline playoff team, even though I don't think they'll make it this year. But let me know if I'm wrong, folks. Where will Detroit finish in the NFC North? Let me know in the comments section if it's first, second, third, or fourth. I'll peg them as third. I think they'll be about a 500 team once again this year. Go ahead and follow us on Twitter at ChatSports. More NFL coverage all season long, and let us know any questions that you all have.